and Mark Yellen, who is district criminal. Good job.
What's that?
Sure. How many are in Zoom? Is there an arrow I can look at even more?
9, yeah.
Participants. With the vote, so
Okay.
blue, white.
Right.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tim Cooney, and I'm a good friend of the author who's here tonight. He calls me the mayor. I served as mayor in the city of Worcester some 35 years ago when I was a youngster. But Mark Pathfinder, Epstein, and I go way back. I knew both his mom and his dad very well, his brother, Epi. And Mark, I think we talked everything that everybody talks about, the pandemic and what we've all been through. And an awful lot of sad and negative stories have come from the pandemic. But one of the bright lights, one of the good things that came out of the pandemic is Mark's book. He used the pandemic to do some soul searching and to put some thoughts together and put his numerous friends and celebrities from the sports world into his book. And I've been working with him on a volunteer basis. I'm happy to do it, helping Matt Pathfinder get the word out to people along the East Coast. I've sent this book to friends and family members far and wide, and I'm a true believer in Mike getting his message across. I think his heart comes through in this book, his heart and soul, and he's done a tremendous job in putting it down in black and white. I think it's something that a lot of us probably think about doing and really don't do it, but Pathfinder has done it. He tells a tremendous story, and it gives me great pleasure tonight to introduce the author, Mark Pathfinder Epstein.
Thank you. I wrote some notes here, and I want to start by saying thank you to everybody who's tuned in and made the trek out here tonight. This is a great opportunity. I'm excited to have the invitation to be the first in-person live studio audience that the Falmouth Historical Society Museums on the Green have hosted in the last couple of years. And Mark Schmidt, I want to thank you as the executive director. I want to thank Sarah Hines from 8 Cousins Books for trusting the story and carrying on her bookshelf. Jane Cariella from the Falmouth Art Fair, who has invited me to have my book there for the last couple of Thursdays. Linda Peters from the Falmouth Commodores, who I've been working with as a volunteer this summer. And Jessica O'Connor from the Falmouth Public Library, someone who I have developed a friendship with, who put together a program that included my book, and I appreciate that. Mayor Cooney, words can't tell you how much you mean to me and my family, and I thank you for being here and making the trek out from Hyannis tonight. And for someone that's bought 40 books and passed them out all over Worcester, New England, and throughout the Florida, rest of the country, I thank you for that, where you reside in with your beautiful wife, Joyce. I want to thank my wife, Barbara, who couldn't make it to Falmouth this summer. There was a medical situation that she had to take care of that came up at the last moment. She was going to spend the last couple of weeks with me here, and I flew back to make sure she was going to be okay. She's fine. She's going to be cleared by the doctor tomorrow. So that's the bright side. I've been here 5 weeks and looking forward to getting back home, Barbara, and enjoying our 25th anniversary celebration next Tuesday. So thank you for all the support. I'm not sure I would have written this book if it hadn't been for so many people's encouragement. Anyone who's listening out there tonight, what I want you to do right now, I want you to think of two things. I want you to think of these words: maturity and motivation equals success. I want you to ponder on that formula for success. Maturity and motivation equals success. I want you to think about it for a moment and think about what it means to you. I know what it means to me. It was a life changer. But think about that for a second, or think about somebody who you think would relate to that formula. Because it's going to be in the book. If you haven't read it yet, you'll be seeing that formula of success throughout the book, that all the principles that I work with in the Deep South really enjoyed my teaching that formula of success to the student body. And I put a copyright on it. So I want you to think about that, because to read the book and not pull that out of it and make it something that can help you at any age improve the direction of your life, you'd be missing a big part of the book. Also, what I want you to do now, everyone, I want you to close your eyes. For the next 10 to 15 seconds, I want you to do this. I want you to imagine traveling, I'll tell you in 1 second to close them, traveling 1,000 miles to an unknown destination. You get in your car, you're in your mid-30s, you have 2 young children, 5 and 2 years old, and you've just struggled a little bit, coming out of a traumatic divorce, and you spent a 1.5 years trying to work things out, and you think that it might benefit you to have a change of location. I want you to close your eyes, and you're driving 1,000 miles south. You don't know where you're going, but it's a 2-day trip. Think about how you're feeling on the road, saying goodbye to everyone, your parents, who were a big part of your life, and your children, and your basketball community that was a big part of your life. And this is not how I got the name Pathfinder, but I will tell you that. Now open your eyes. You're in Cookeville, Tennessee. And you're going to say, why did I pick Cookeville, Tennessee? For the same reason I woke up in Charleston, South Carolina. No rhyme and reason. Didn't know where I was going. Didn't know anybody. Didn't know what I was going to do. Didn't know how long I was going to stay. And I was by myself the day after Christmas at 35 years old. Traumatic? It was for me. No one to lean on. And you don't know if what the next day is going to bring. You're out there in the middle of nowhere. And that was the essence of why I wanted to write this book. It's a powerful story. They call me Pathfinder, Education, Basketball, Equality. The Pathfinder nickname came from the store of Charlie's Surplus in Worcester, where I grew up for 34, 35 years of my life and befriended so many great people where my roots started. Mayor Tim Cooney and so many others. Some you heard of, some you haven't. A lot of people associated with the game of basketball. And we had a mutual friend of Bob Cousy, who inspired so many younger generations of future basketball players, including myself. And I don't know if that was a good or bad thing, but it was the only place I knew. And to leave it when you have 2 young children and you had to say goodbye to them the day before Christmas of '88 was tough. And when I wrote the book, a lot of those memories came back, and I'm glad I did, because the story now has a 5-star rating on Amazon. It has over 50 reviews. It's won 2 awards. It has raised $7,000 for cancer treatment that I donated in memory of my brother, Bobby Epstein, who died the last day that I finished authoring the book. I had a lot of help with the publishing and authoring, especially the editing. Elite authors. Jenny Chandler was tremendous. And it was a new experience for me. But I was a happy-go-lucky kid who thought I was going to play in the NBA. And that, I think, started my spiraling downhill at a really young age. You watch Bob Cousy winning all those championships, and here I was in high school as a 10th grader, 4 feet 11 inches and 135 pounds. And I actually thought I was going to be playing in the NBA. So when I talk about maturity and motivation, understand something. I'm kind of starting to talk about myself a little bit. To show you how extremely immature I was, I actually thought in my mind I was going to play in the NBA. And now when Mayor Cooney, at one time he introduced me and said about my future aspirations playing in the NBA. And I actually was embarrassed sitting there listening to that and going, oh my goodness, how could I have been so sidetracked? So when I left, let me say this. To understand the level of immaturity, I was pulled out of 8th grade and told by our guidance counselor that I needed to go to a trade school. I wasn't going to get a high school diploma. I was that poor of a student. And he was right. You know, some people say, you know, how terrible it was for a counselor to say, you know, you're not going to make it. Well, actually, he did me a favor, because I'm not sure I could have made it then at a conventional high school. Although intelligence, yeah. Oh, no question in my mind. I think the ADHD back then, though, didn't have a letters to it or any kind of diagnosis or medicine to help with that. And I think that was part of my problem. At least that's what, when I look back, there's no question that it was. But I was determined to go to college. And unfortunately, I wanted to go for the wrong reason. I wanted to be a basketball player. So I worked real hard trying to improve my grades at Worcester Boys Trade. And if Mayor Cooney had stayed one more year at Trade, I would have been playing for him on the JVs. He was there for 2 years as an assistant coach at Trade to Don Manager, who was my next door neighbor and one of his best friends from Assumption College. And he was his assistant. And Don was also the athletic director. So we really tie it in. But anyways, Tim left and started his career coaching college ball. And I was a young guy that I think on the manager made sure I made the team, even though I was so small and tiny. And he could see I had a little love for the game and I had a little potential. My size held me back, there's no question. But going to college and playing basketball, I was driven. I secretly bought and it's in the book, a college SAT study guide. So I could independently study on my own, because at trade, we didn't have any academics, we had shop. They switched on and off. So I didn't have the background that other students at conventional high schools, traditional high schools, were getting academically. So I was a poor student, and I was already 10 yards behind everyone on top of it. But I studied, I got a good enough SAT score where Worcester State gave me a provisional acceptance through my basketball background. They knew I was driven, and they had a good program, they had a real good program back then in the 70s. And they gave me a shot at attending school, and it worked out great. I made the team for a couple of years. I played 4 years there, and we had great teams. It was the best era. And I got my diploma, and that remains the greatest accomplishment of my life, graduating from college, regardless of what I did after I moved away. I look at that as the highlight for me. And I was little, and that's why I wear my college graduation ring, to remind me every day how far I had to come to be a college graduate. And then when I got to Charleston, I ended up with a master's degree on top of it. So I became a real good student. So that's my background. I wanted to go back after I was talking a little bit about waking up in Charleston and what I was going to do. So I built the background for the rest of the story, because anyone that reads this book has to understand something. I have had, everyone's got a story. Everyone can write a book. What makes mine unique, I have had 2 completely separate lives that don't intertwine. One ended the day I left Worcester. The next one started the day I arrived in Charleston, South Carolina. The only thing I had that made it work was my basketball background. Surprisingly, I didn't realize I was ever going to use it the way I ended up doing it, the way it ended up working for me, rather. So I've been there 33 years, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So my parents didn't want me to work the first couple of months, because the year and a half of working out my 2 daughters, the life I had with them, to make it work so they were going to live a normal childhood. I had put a year and a half in after the divorce to make sure when I left, they were going to be well set. And no question. Brooke just left with her 2 grandchildren, my 2 grandchildren, rather, about an hour ago, on her second visit here this summer, at where I stay for the last over 40 years in the summer. And she's gone back to West Brookfield. And we had a great relationship. I had a great relationship with Carly also, and her little baby. So that's all good. I decided, after thinking about what I wanted to do, and my parents told me, don't relax, calm yourself down, enjoy the formal life for a few months, then figure it out. I got down there after a couple of weeks. My parents had been so good to me, supporting me, that I thought I needed to work. So I looked at the paper, and I saw there was, I do not know why I picked this one, because I know my life Barbara is watching this back home in Charleston, South Carolina, and she's absolutely splitting her gut. I interviewed for the job as a tool on the road salesman. I don't know how to use the hammer. So that one, I passed on. And she knows I'm not exaggerating. The second one was a home alarm salesman. It was intriguing for Sears. The third one was for a clothier store that's legendary as a salesperson, making $2 an hour on the floor. Passed on that. The next one was a copy machine salesperson who makes the sales and delivers the copy machines. He liked the fact that I had a van and he didn't have to use his, that I came down with from Charlie's Surplus on Water Street. My father let me take the car as mine, so I had a vehicle, and it was an empty van, and he thought it would be great if I delivered his copy machines. So I passed on that. But deep down, I knew what I wanted to do with the South, but I never told anyone. I had read a book in 5th grade called Black Like Me. And I was, in my mind, my entire life, even today, as I stand here in front of everyone, and I was telling Mark Schmidt earlier, before anyone came and tuned in, that if I had the chance to right now, this moment, if someone said, okay, live out your perfect dream, I said, okay, I will. Paint me black. I want to go and experience what it is like for a Black person in the Deep South. That's my dream. I would do it today in a flash. And Barbara said, oh my goodness, he would. Oh, unequivocally, I would. So I knew this story, Black Like Me, was inspiring me for a long time. And I knew with my basketball background and my lifestyle and my personality, give me a shot to make a difference in equality in the South. And I can do something significant with my life. I knew that. I didn't have a lot of confidence in too many other areas, but I was convinced and I was determined. If I was in the right situation, I could make a huge impact, not just with a few people, but in a large area of the state. And that's what I set out to do. So did I become a Pathfinder? I don't know if I became a Pathfinder, but I do know that the Pathfinder nickname makes sense to me. And even though I was named after a sleeping bag, I thought from the Charlie's Surplus store, I thought, okay, let's go to work. I need to calm down. I need to learn the area. I need to ask questions. I cannot jump into this. If I'm going to do it, I have to do it right. If I want to impact society, I had to know where I was. I had to understand the differences. And I told Mark before this, I can talk about my years in Worcester. I can talk about my love for family. I can talk about my children. And I can talk about Mayor Cooney. And I'm really happy. And I am very relaxed. And I love those conversations. You get me talking about equality and the work that I was involved with for the last 33 years. There's nothing that I become more intense about. And that I hope people understand when they read the book. This wasn't a grandstand. This was a 33-year mission. I got into it. I wanted to experience bad schools. I wanted to experience the poor citizens. I do not want to attach myself with the higher level profile of middle class. I wanted to understand the low country of South Carolina, and I thought the way I had to understand it was to live it. And I was ready. I enrolled at the Citadel for counselor education because my first job was as a career counselor for 1 semester as a permanent sub. The principal said, "You have unbelievable potential. I'm going to take you down to the Citadel and introduce you to the Dean of Education." Because I couldn't get rehired. I was only on a day-to-day pay. He was watching me work and he said, "You could be great." And I'm saying to myself, in a humble way, I know, you've seen nothing yet. And I felt that way. I felt that way. Given the right situation, with the right principles, and the right neighborhoods and community behind me, I can make changes. I did not want to be an educator. I wanted to be an agent for change. Being an educator at the school I was working at was never enough for me. So I worked with incredible educators. Unbelievable, dedicated, hardworking. It was a mission of many people. I was not by myself. Maybe in certain things I led the way in certain aspects of it, but I had incredible support and incredible friendships from Blacks as well as whites, and leaders of industry, of Fortune 500 companies, of NBA All-Stars. I was playing it out to the highest degree. Super Bowl champions were in my corner. I did not just do this by myself, y'all. That's the only phrase I picked up by living in the South Carolina, is y'all. And my daughters, when they see the video, they'll go, "Oh yeah, he's been saying that for years." And this mission started at an elementary school called Berry Elementary. I was asking questions. I was learning. I was moving slow. It was the lowest rated school in the state of South Carolina from the year before. I was the only male working at the school that year. Literally. I think we even had a female custodian. I was able to use my college degree, my certification as an elementary teacher to get this job. After I passed some tests to teach in the state of South Carolina, and I passed them after taking some courses and failing it a couple of times. But I was given a provisional for 1 year, which gave me extra time to take the course again and study. Hey, thanks a lot, Mark. I really appreciate that. So, to show you how poor this school was, understand, I was teaching 5th grade language arts. I like writing. And I wanted my students to write. So that's why they gave me that slot. This class of 5th graders, if you know how old the typical average 5th grader is, they're 10 years old, 10, going on 11, maybe. These were 12, 13-year-old kids. Okay. I had two classes. Two of them were 25 students each. And the year before, the reason she came so hard at me, I didn't want to take this job, y'all. The reason she came so hard at me is there were so many discipline problems at the school. It had 13 teachers. 8 had just resigned out of 13. 4 were coming back. 4 were coming back. She hired 8 new teachers. That's what it was. 8 new teachers. And guess what? All right out of college from the Northeast. They had no clue where they were. I didn't have a clue. Although I was older, I had experienced a little more. Because of my dad, I had seen more. I did some amazing things with him. Because he had done some amazing things, he brought me along with him, and he was my mentor. So he prepared me for some tough times, is really what I'm saying. And Mick Rooney will admit that. No question, he toughened me up. And my mother was tough love. And I made it successfully in South Carolina, maybe because of my mama. Maybe, as much as I was close to my dad, it was my mama who brought me through it from day to day to make sure I was going to make it and be all right for my children and myself. Those were some tough times. I know my wife now, sometimes she says, you don't talk too much about it. And I haven't, but you experience what it was like. You experience what it was like waking up in Brookville, Tennessee. What are you going to do? That's where I was. That's where my mind, that's where I was at. I have it on silent, it's vibrating. Spam. Either that or Mayor Cooney wanted to play golf again tomorrow. But so yeah, it started out tough. I'm at Berry Elementary School, and I'm continuing the path of this story. The overage kids that are learning to read and write from the year before, the standardized tests that rank and rate the schools for funding. I didn't know this until the first day of school. Was the lowest in 5th grade test scores in the entire state of South Carolina for elementary schools. 1 percentile. Their reading rates were at the year before I got there. She came in the first day of school during recess, during lunch, said, Mark, take us out of the home. I had no idea what you were talking about. I had no talking about. I said, what do you mean take you out of the home? Last year, we were the very lowest in the state. Oh, I said to myself, and I had never taught language arts before in my life. What a match this is. And I don't even know where I am. So, kids worked. They worked really hard. And now fast forward, end of the year, they take their standardized test. The testing coordinator for the state of South Carolina. We've never had one guest in our classroom, ever, the whole year. Everybody wanted to stay away. They didn't know what was going to come flying through the air. I'm serious. The testing administrator for the South Carolina State Department of Education walks into our room, sits in the back, and stays for 3.5 hours. So if you don't think I knew then that we were on their radar, oh, you're done right, I did. I didn't sign my contract the next year. I went to North Charleston High School. They recruited me because I was coaching at another school while I was teaching at Berry, the 5th grade. And, they were word is catching on a little bit about my basketball background. We had some great success in Worcester at Brompton Park, Charlie Surplus in one of the top semi-pro leagues in the country. Mayor Cooney, when he was at Assumption, played in it for several years. And Charlie Surplus, our team that I helped put together and coach, played on another team. But anyways, we won 7 championships. I had a great background, and it was catching on. North Charleston came after me, high school. I could use my elementary certification if I taught 8th grade overage kids from the middle school who were all 15 years old and 16 years old, and they stayed back 3 years. They had to give them a social promotion as long as they had their academic curriculum as an 8th grader. I took it. I loved it. It was a blast. Once I was through with that 3-year stretch, I had my master's degree the same time I finished up. And I was ready. I was really ready. That 4 years was a learning experience, and I was just starting out. And I knew what I wanted to do. And I knew it had to be the right principles that were going to allow me. And the principal at James Island High, who took me down to get my master's at Sidley, Floyd Hyatt, was the break. He told me when I left to use my teaching degree in North Charleston, South Carolina, he said, you get your degree and I'll hire you back if I have an opening. Bang, he had an opening and I was full steam ahead. And I wanted James Island High. I had 8 or 9 interviews, 3 or 4 offers. There was one place I wanted to be. It was James Island, where my wife grew up. Excuse me. I feel like I'm coaching. I'm in the locker room. The guys are hiding from me. Went back to James Island, had unbelievable, great 9 years. Started meeting a lot of people in the community. And I was recruited to a school called West Ashland High School. It just opened up, $52 million in 2001. So I left. After 9 years at James Island High, I was brought over to West Ashland High, and I was given full reign. Career counselor, do what you need to do, and my mission as an agent for change took off. And with a lot of support, tremendous faculties, tremendous colleagues, and some of my insights from my days at voice trade and my own maturity and motivation, looking for that success. We started making some real progress with vocational education in the state, with mentorships, with speakers. And when I'm talking speakers now, I'm talking some of the most heavy hitters in America. And while I was doing this, I was involved with many activities outside of the school in putting on major events in the community of South Carolina in the Low Country, promoting and sponsoring some really neat things. The ESPN Charleston Classic, I was a co-director of. It's a college basketball tournament that happens on ESPN in Charleston at the weekend before Christmas. 8 teams from around America come and play a 3-day tournament there. And they've been doing it for 14, 15 years. And I got that to where we started getting great attendance, and now I feel like it won't leave. My contacts in basketball are at the highest level of players and superstars that ever played the game. The Bill Russells, the Magic Johnsons, the Julius Ervings, John Havlicek, Kareem, Charles Barkley. And I listened to their lessons that they shared with me and their wisdoms, Coach Russell specifically. I developed a really nice friendship with him. And for the week I worked with him at his camp as a camp director in Vegas, for that time, he was my mentor. And we spent a lot of time together. And I listened. People always ask me, what did you ask him? No. When you're with Coach Russell and you're having dinner with him, you don't ask him anything. You listen. You let him go. If he's comfortable with you, he's going to go. And you better have all ears, because it is some of the greatest stories I've ever heard. Same with Julius Erving. Great guys. Normal, regular people. I didn't want to name drop them in the book, but I had editors, sports editors, as I was writing, that encouraged me to use their names. I really didn't feel comfortable doing it, but they knew what my background was. And actually, Kareem told me he wanted to come to our school and speak to the student body about his new book that he had just written called The Renaissance, the history of New York City basketball, that his father had played on. And it was the roots of the Harlem Globetrotters. Have some phenomenal stories from those camp days that took place at the dinner table. So yeah, I lived out some incredible fantasies. I got to coach over in Sydney, Australia, the U.S. men's Jewish Maccabee team, to a gold medal. And we used, now that it's the Olympic week, I knew I was competing against some pretty heavy stuff tonight. And but we used their Olympic facilities that the Sydney, Australia Olympics were held in 2000. We came down there for the Maccabee Games in 2008, the World Games of Jewish athletes from around the world. And we had privy to their facilities. And, so I had some incredible, I've been lucky my friends couldn't forget me from my New England basketball days. And that's how it happened. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right friends. And I had some opportunities that were dreams come true, and I understand that. And I was able to share and do things with my students from the wisdom I was learning. And it wasn't just the ESPN Classic, though. I was a mover and a shaker. But I had support. I had people allowing me to do it. They wanted change. And you have to understand this. When I came down in the late 80s, the South Carolina education system was 49th to 50th. Along with Mississippi and South Carolina, it was switching back and forth from year to year. And yes, maybe it earned its ranking at that time. Maybe it was just, but there were so many initiatives that were starting to take place by the State Department of Education. They understood the challenge that they had to change things. And depending on where you went in the Charleston County School District or the state of South Carolina, you saw some real discrepancies between schools, between communities. And maybe that Berry Elementary School gave me a taste of what segregation was still about. And then it started slowly fading as funds started being poured into the state for the education system. And the educators became, and always were, really dedicated, but they were moving forward quickly. And the improvements have been incredible. I know what my goal was. I knew what it was. I wanted to improve the educational
equality of the state of South Carolina. And I'm proud of the work that a group of educators and myself did together as a team in all the different schools, knowing what I was trying to do and allowing me to do it. That was my team. I wasn't getting any pushback. I was lucky. I was a little bit of a loose cannon, but I loved that reputation. It was perfect for me because I was a loose cannon. And we made a lot of progress. When I retired, I got the MOG award for the state of South Carolina. And I get this award from Representative Wendell Gilliard, who's become my mentor down there. He's one of the leading Black legislators in the state of South Carolina, and we spent literally hundreds of hours together. And I was presented this award, and awards, a lot of times they're just, oh, okay, it's great. You achieved something. But the day I received the award, it was more than the award. It was, holy crap, how could this have happened? I went from where am I to this. It was really surreal to me. Like, wow, you talk about coming full circle. I knew my players loved me. I knew the parents loved me. Some of the teachers, most liked me. A few thought of me as a loose cannon and were a little bit shy of getting too close to me. And that was fine. I had my friends. And when I retired, I saw things that still need to be changed in the state of South Carolina, even though we made incredible progress. I'm so proud of where the state of South Carolina education system is right now. I feel it's equal to that of any state in America. We came a long way. Like Martin Luther King said, though, we still got a long way to go. But when I retired, my work wasn't done. I took off even harder. And I spent time in the governor's, Haley's, one-on-one with her in her office about a bill I thought needed to be passed, testifying at the State House of South Carolina 4 different times to get the dropout age changed to 18 from 17. Under testimony, calling a state representative from the mountains of Appalachia, stereotyping Black students. I don't think I got to start that. But we got a unanimous vote to change the dropout age, and then it was tabled for future legislative sessions. So I guess what I'm saying to you is, can one man make a difference? Yeah, if they're in the right situation and they have the right support system behind them, and they have the right wife who was also in education as a middle school counselor and really got me, really understood and encouraged me to write the book, encouraged me to do certain things that hadn't been done in our school district before, with some of the programs we were using in the vocational department, to expand it and to give better access to students who were in need and were looking for that motivation and maturity equals success formula. Who do you think that maturity, motivation equals success formula was derived from? It was me. I was the one who needed to become more mature and motivated, and I wouldn't have had the hardship
of having 2 divorces by the age of 34 years old and not speaking to my first wife, who truly was the first love of my life. For 41 years, we had never spoken because I was so darn immature that I didn't know how to say goodbye to her when she decided to go a different way, a different direction in our marriage, and have a career that she became real successful in. And I understood it. I blamed myself. We never spoke. I know that's hard to believe. We never spoke goodbye. And for 41 years, it killed me. And to have dinner with her 2 years ago, and for her to say, I've been waiting for this for almost my whole life. And I'm looking at her, and I said the same thing. And to develop a friendship on Facebook, and so many other things, to see my welcoming back to Worcester from Tinicuni, and a major event that we had in honor of my dad at the second oldest park in America, when we dedicated a monument to him for a Falmouth road race type event that we had in Worcester called the Charlie Surplus Road Race. That was also ranked in the top 100 in the world in 1984, that I was the director of. So I had a lot of great experiences that I brought to the South with me. And I had the tenacity of my dad, and I had the determination of my mom. And I was doing it for my kids. And I wanted to make a difference in the world. I wanted to make a difference in the world. I knew I had potential. And am I satisfied? Not yet. But someday I'm going to be. Someday I'm going to be. Because I'm not done. I'm slowed down. But there's a little more work to be done. We have some unbelievable endorsements in the book. Coretta Scott King's first cousin is celebrating her 83rd birthday. I can't, 93rd birthday. It's Saturday in Charleston. I was invited to the birthday party, and I can't make it because I'll be coming home from Falmouth that day. She endorses it in there. Jim Calhoun, coach of UConn, has a great endorsement. Richard Lapchuk, who's the social justice for global sport in the world, including right now the Olympic Games that are going on. He's signed off on it in there. Couple NBA All-Stars in there. Former congressman is in there. Tom McMillan is the former congressman I'm talking about, the All-American head of sport for society under Barack Obama's presidency. I guess we had the hitters in there. Seth Greenberg, W. Antonelli, a couple of ESPN play-by-play commentators for college basketball. I've been lucky. I've been lucky. I told Mark Schmidt before you came, and the one thing that whenever I have to look at the book and take quotes and comments and go back and study it to make a presentation somewhere that I would like to speak at, I don't know who I'm writing about, reading about rather. I look and I go, wow, that's pretty impressive. And I'm like, hey, dummy, this is you. And I'm like, wow, I think it is. And I'm like, how did I pull this off? And I'm like, I couldn't do it again. So I came a long way from crying myself to sleep or spending 2 days on the road traveling from Worcester to Charleston, South Carolina, which ended up becoming my destination. I didn't like it the first time, I wanted to leave, but that's for another book. Yeah, you know, I am going to probably write another book. I'm thinking of a basketball story. Representative Cooney, Representative Cooney. Mayor Cooney and myself will talk about some ideas. We have some former legends that played for the Celtics that might make a great story that won championships. So we'll see how it plays out. I do know this. Writing it was fun. Publishing is hard. Promoting it, I'm good at it, but I hate it. I don't know if that makes sense. I know I'm good at it. I know you got to do it, but I like being by. I'm at the point in my life now where I'm really satisfied with where I am, and I like the time I have by myself in my life, and that's why for the last 42 years, when I come to Charleston, I have two sides of me: that the personality side that you're seeing right now, and the one that I come to Falmouth and like spending 5 weeks off of Mary Vista Ave at a private beach in a chair reading with my grandkids running around, and no one bothering me because I don't take my phone. And that's really the full circle of how this whole book has evolved. And the one thing I found out this summer, I kind of knew it though, because Mayor Cooney, I'll be calling you Senator Cooney before the end of the night. I kind of knew it. We've talked a little bit. I'm not a Southern boy. I am not a Southern boy. The roots of New England, of Worcester, Boston, sports are so ingrained in me. I'll never be a Southern boy, but I couldn't find a better city in the world to live in. I love it. I love it. And I'm looking forward to getting back on Saturday. But it's been great. It's been great. This is an unbelievable opportunity. I don't get caught up in how many people tune in, how many books I sell. You know, I want the money going to help people. And it has. It's great. So if you buy one, great. If you don't, go to your public library. I probably have donated one. So that sums up the book. I tried to give it a great. Oh, and the last thing, I don't enjoy the sport of basketball anymore. It's changed too much. I'm too old school. I moved on. I'm still a diehard Red Sox fan. And I invited Tom Brady to be my best man when I married Barbara, but he was busy that night. So I love the Patriots. And this is great. This is great. Falmouth Historical Museum's on the green. Wow. I mean, for Pathfinder to have this chance to speak at a place that has so much history, so much tradition, so invaluable in this community. Pretty humbling. I was a Jewish kid once who thought I was going to play in the NBA from Worcester. And I'm not lost now, that's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for those watching at home, we had to turn away 140 people tonight. I'm sorry they couldn't get in. This video is going to be able to be seen on YouTube, and it far exceeded any attendance I could have ever imagined. Thank you. You really brought out a lot of your former fans and constituents, Mayor. I'm glad I had you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah, the villagers are rioting out there. I have one.
Yeah, please ask me questions.
I have one question, but it's a two-parter. Why would a kid, and I asked this before, why would a kid from Worcester ultimately end up in South Carolina as opposed to Lawrence, let's say? So why did the car end up there? And if your fantasy came through that you could put on blackface, you could be a black person in the South,
Sure.
what do you think you would discover?
Okay, the first one was, yeah, great questions, tremendous. I know the Olympics are going on right now. Got some medals up for grabs tonight. But I can answer that question. I wanted a warm climate, and I could tired of driving, and I wanted a city about the same size as Worcester. I didn't want to drive more than 2 days. I wanted a warm climate, same size as the city as Worcester. Looked on the map, I wanted it on the coast. I came to a few choices, Jacksonville, Wilmington, Smyrna Beach, Orlando. I know that's not on the coast, but it's about 50 miles off the coast, Florida. And Savannah, Georgia. And in the beginning, I didn't like Charleston. And mainly because they got hit by a U-boat, bad hurricane that destroyed $4 billion worth of damage to it when I first got there after 8-9 months. And the city shut down for 3 to 4 months, including the school systems for a full month. And I didn't have the pro sports. I didn't realize I was close enough to Atlanta to go to Braves games yet. And I really missed pro sports town. So I know I didn't like Charleston in the beginning, but I grew to love it real quickly. I love the people. I love the beaches. I love the lake. Believe it or not, I love the outdoor sports of running all the time, playing golf, playing tennis. I thought the girls were beautiful. I was single again. And so I settled down and got comfortable after I got my degree. I knew that there was a future there for me in that town, and I didn't want to start somewhere else new. I had been through so much. Starting in a new place, I thought was going to be hard, and I was making some inroads. Wish I could really tell you why it was Charleston, but I was ready to move on if I didn't like it. I do know that. And I was heading to Florida a lot my first 2 years, looking around. What would I find if I painted myself black? Well, that's what I would want to paint myself black for, to find out. I want to know more about how difficult it was for my players. I was really close to them and their families. I want to know why the literacy, I want to experience the literacy of that 1 percentile when I had my first job. I want to know more about that. I want to know what other bills should go in front of the State House of Representatives, who is actually one of the awards I got. My thirst for knowledge on segregation, which doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. I shouldn't even use that word. In the Black communities, there needs to be improvement still, though. I don't use the word segregation anymore, that's for sure. But there's always room for improvement in everything. And I think that's really what I'd like to find out, what areas we can still improve. That would be my thirst to go forward. Not everybody is suited for that. To take a bill from infancy and end up with 22 state representatives sponsoring. And I have done that. And I've also seen the bills fail, that I would like to see passed. So I can't say it's all success, but I think that's I think that's what I'd like to see still happen. And I think the only way to get into that is by, I have more black friends in South Carolina than I do white friends. My associations and my group takes me into the black communities. Another question. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. That was.
Good night and go Team USA.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. And I hope that our first hybrid experiment was successful. And yes, I really am still here, even though you didn't have to look at my smiling visage tonight. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Mark, for doing this.
Barbara and my boy Howard Greenblatt, second greatest Jewish basketball player in the history of New England. I'll let you know who the first one is when I can figure it out. But what a great player Howard is. I see his name up there. So I appreciate you being tuning in with your pretty wife, Cindy.
All right. Good night, everybody.